walking through a company who has done this successfully and how they did that.
So the problem you usually run into as soon as you start consuming jobs to be done material is there's a lot of reference to physical products. You'll hear about milkshakes and mattresses and power tools. And so a lot of companies started looking at software companies started looking at this and saying, well, this is great, but how do we apply this to the software world? And so one of the pioneers in that space was Intercom, and they've used it extensively. So Intercom, the little chat widget that you get whenever you visit a website, allows for conversational interaction with you in the business. And they even wrote an excellent book on it. I highly recommend. It's only, I think, 30 pages. You could probably finish it in 20 minutes on their journey with jobs to be done and how they've actually helped formalize some of the processes and tools that software folks in the software world can use. And so did I answer your question there? I don't want to pause.
Yeah. We're just going to dive into like kind of how they've used it and why it's worked for them and kind of, that example.
Got it. So again, the problem that they found was that most people had built what we call personas in the product development world around customer attributes. So if you think about demographics like age, race, geography, level of education, the problem with these type of personas is they really don't dictate design decisions, and they don't map to actual customers in the real world. So there's some energy put into building these personas, but then they end up being not used because they don't actually map to reality. And so they started with this problem of, okay, how do we really get at a core understanding of these customer jobs so that we can dictate how our software evolves and how we're bringing value to our customers. So the first thing you'd think of is in a B2B context, you potentially have multiple different stakeholders trying to complete different jobs. So if I take a product like Intercom, you've got a purchase decision maker, say the VP of sales or CRO. You've got the job executor, and that could be SDR, or in Intercom's case, customer support representative, many others. And then you've got also a product lifecycle support team. So think about maybe your sales operations team that has to stand up this software and keep it running. So the idea is that we want to understand each of those actors and what they care about. We're going to go through a research process to do that. So first thing is making sure that you align with the executive team inside the building to make sure that, one, you have enough time. My recommendation for folks is that they often delay doing this type of research, but it's research that's fundamental to so many go-to-market activities down the line. This helps you understand. I work in pricing, so it's key for pricing, it's key for messaging, positioning, for sales. This research affects all of those downstream marketing activities. And so the key thing is to start early. And then also, I found this from experience the hard way, make sure you get executive buy-in that different customers have different needs. Because if you go into, I've been in rooms, unfortunately, where there have been executives say, well, our product is for everyone. And so it doesn't matter sort of what process you go through at any point. If your executives don't believe that your customers are inherently different, you're going to have wasted your time. What we want to do then is hypothesize about what the distinctive customer types could be. And as I laid out before, right, difference between a purchase decision maker, a job executor, a product life cycle support team, we can, on the surface, think that they have different needs that will be served, or they will have different jobs that they're trying to get done that will differentiate them. But there may also be often distinctions we'll use between SMB, mid-market, enterprise, or geography. this is not a stopping place, but it's a way for us to socialize the idea of customers having different needs inside the company, get information from those frontline teams. So the sales people who are talking to prospects every day, the product and marketing teams, the customer support personnel, getting all of that data together and then using that as a opportunity to say, where do we disagree? Where is the most risk? What do we really not understand about how these customers break down? And then what you want to do is use that as a jumping off point to actually go conduct the real research, which is mostly in-depth customer interviews, then backed by some quantitative survey research. So the customer interviews within a jobs to be done format. And again, depending upon your audience, if you're in perhaps a sales development role, normally this type of activity, this in-depth research project would be driven probably by your marketing or product teams, because these are pretty intense efforts. But helping you understand the value behind it is important, because it will, as we mentioned before, it will help short circuit any resistance that you have with closing deals with your customers, helping you to qualify people, understand how what jobs they're trying to get done, and direct them to the most valuable parts of your offering. But as I was referring to the customer interviews, one piece of advice I'd give folks is there's as I mentioned before, Bob Mesta is one of the sort of fathers of the jobs to be done theory. He gives an absolute masterclass on customer interviewing as it pertains to jobs to be done. And you can get it on the web at the Business of Software conference. I highly recommend everyone listening go watch those. I've watched them multiple times. What you're trying to do in these interviews, though, is really try to dig behind the surface level answers of what people are saying are the reasons they're choosing a product. So one of the ways that you do that, similar to when you maybe interview for a job and people ask you about your past situation and how you handled that, past behavior tends to be the best predictive indicator of future behavior. And so digging into the purchase process they had around a similar type product. And so, for example, Bob Mesta in the call or the video that I'm referring to talks about a car purchase, and he does it live on set with someone. So walking them through like you're filming a mini documentary and really looking for not just how they answer the questions, but or rather not what they say, but rather how they answer, listening for the tone. Where are their inflections, where they're happy or excited? Where do they not sound excited when discussing potential alternatives or areas of frustration? And timelines matter. And you want to ask for specifics. Who was there? Who else was involved in the process? In a B2B situation, this can actually get quite complex, because potentially, when you're talking to maybe an end user, that person maybe only joined the company a few months ago and wasn't around for the purchase process. And so you may require multiple interviews, even within the same account, to construct an entire timeline. But it can often be just as important, what were the influences of these other people who were, in a B2B case, you have potentially buying committees, multiple stakeholders. And so understanding the influences that those folks had and the effectively the jobs that those other people needed to get done is just as important.